Hello everyone. I'm very excited to give my first ever conference talk here in my home country, so thank you very much for having me here. My name is Ekaterina Loschinina. I live in London and I work for the Financial Times. So why am I here standing in front of all of you? Because I think I'm a little bit similar to most of you. I work as a full-stack software engineer, and on a day-to-day basis I deal with all these technologies and many, many more. But I think, as most of you, I spend some of my free time coding. For example, coding interactive installations for the festival. So the installation that I'm going to tell you about was the one that me and a group of my friends done for the festival in the desert this summer. Spoiler alert, it is using some LEDs, Arduino's Raspberry Pi, ropes, and UV lights. A bit of a disclaimer, this is just my story. None of us had any experience with similar installations before. Most of us had none experience with Arduino's Raspberry Pi. Honestly, it was the first Raspberry Pi I ever saw in my life. And a lot of decisions were extremely DIY and just to fit the conditions of limited time and financial resources. So what you can take out of the story is, I guess, that you don't really need special skills to create something similar, or maybe something even better. But I don't mean that this is easy, and it's not easy at all, but if you want to make it happen and you work hard enough, it's definitely doable. So why would you spend so much of your free time and effort into something like that? Well, it's not easy, but because the project that I'm going to tell you about really took a couple of months of my life and was extremely challenging and time-consuming, but it's extremely rewarding. First of all, you are doing something the way you want it, not following the decisions of a product owner or any profitability concerns. And second, it's really great to observe how people react to it in person, from people's eyes just completely lit up when they did realize how it works and then just couldn't stop playing with it, to other people just meeting you in the middle of the playa, in the middle of the festival, and expressing their gratitude and inviting you to similar festivals. I think this is really the closest to the final consumer you can possibly get, and it's beautiful. There it is. There will be more videos. So let me give you a bit of a context. Burning Man is an annual event that is held in the middle of Nevada desert in the United States since the middle of '80s. Burning Man itself has quite a few so-called daughters, so smaller scale festivals all around the world. The one I will be telling you about is, I think, the largest one in Europe. So what are these festivals about? It's always an experiment in community and art influenced by 10 main principles, and the one I really want to focus on is participation. This means that everything that you can see in the festival is completely non-commercial and is brought by the participants of the festival. So people like you and me who just come to the festival, they create everything from dust and then put it back in the dust in the end. I went there first time last year and I got really inspired and decided that this year, I really want to come back with something beautiful everyone can play with. So when you got inspired, I guess the second problem is that where do you get idea for something like this? Well, in my experience, ideas usually come very randomly. Just put it out to the universe and the universe will provide it. What is it that we actually have done? So if you can see the sentence, this is something that you usually put in the proposal for grant, kind of a little bit of a blah blah that arts people really love. In the most simple words, is an audiovisual music instrument with a rope art piece in the center of it. So it's kind of a structure where you pull the ropes and the triggers, they change in LEDs and sound environment around you. So how we decided to do this is just like we attach some sensors to ropes, sensors send information to Arduino through USB hub combines some information, talks to Raspberry Pi processes information, sends it back to LEDs and the sound. I really want to mention that I guess the key of any project like this is the team. I was very lucky because not just all these people are amazing and they are my friends. Also, all together, we happened to have a combined set of skills that was like perfectly fit for this particular occasion. So we had a specialist in hardware electronics. We had a Shibari artist who was also responsible for structure. We had a person who has lots of coding and IT experience who, like knew how to install Linux to Raspberry Pi and other things. Logistics, and I really want to mention Andrei Novikov, who is like an extremely talented composer who wrote all the music for the project. How to find people like this? Yeah, I know all of them are my friends, but to be honest, like your friends are usually interested in the same things that you are. Working with friends can be very challenging because you are doing some project on top of your day-to-day job, on top of like normal working hours. That has a very tough deadline and a huge scope of work. But from another point of view, you share the outcome of experience together as well. By the way, this chair in the middle, this is the very first version of the installation. Yes, so I guess just being inventive is the key. So after the team, we just decided like to do a first like very simple test run. Like, is it going to work? We created this very simple version for one of our parties at our house. Yeah, this is the room of my flatmate. That was really just like sensors, sending something to Arduino sending something to LEDs, no Raspberry Pi involved. What can go wrong with Raspberry Pi, right? It all went surprisingly well. Took us just a couple of days. We were just like, nice. I think it's easy thing to do this. The video on the left we used for the proposal. So yes, we got proposal from the festival. So we got like some money from them. Yeah, I think getting funding from the institution is extremely important because although the project is not that expensive on its own, it's very DIY. First of all, by getting confirmation of funding, you do understand that the organizers of the festival also do believe in your idea. And they have much more experience in this kind of festivals than you, usually. So that means that the audience of the festival, the participants of the festival, most likely will like this as well. And second, like as you promised money, there is no going back. So now you have to present something. If you're curious, like the total cost of the project was almost $2,500. The conditions of the grant is so that it covers 70%. The rest we paid from our pocket. If you're interested in the breakdown, the wood costed about $700. All electronics, taking into account we had huge amount of spare parts and wasted like some of them, about 1,000. But from another point of view, ordering from China really helps a lot. And obviously doesn't include developer time. So after applying for a grant, we got a little bit relaxed. First of all, because we created the first test version that worked really well. Secondly, we were really reluctant to buy anything, any materials before we knew that we really get this money. And the third that if you ever want to do something similar, I really want to focus on is that it's almost impossible to estimate the time such project requires in the right way from the beginning because you are working on something that most probably no one ever in the world has done. There are so many unexpected challenges that are on your way, although like our project was not like super complicated, I guess. Let's go in a little bit more technical details about how it was done. First of all, how do you develop visuals and sounds for something that is possible to build like in your living room? Well, especially if you are a web dev, right, you build a 3D simulation in the browser of how it is going to look. So the simulation reacted to the way how you press the key in a kind of similar way how we expected it to react to sensors. So if you press on the key long enough, it seems like it's a slow, long stretch. If you like abruptly press the key, it's like a very fast, abrupt pull. I created this simulation. I think it took me about like 1 day to like get really somewhere on it, using a library called 3JS, created by the person with the nickname Mr. Dupe. So if you are interested in JavaScript, 3D things, or live coding, this is a completely amazing individual. If you don't know him, check him out. Now let me, because I think, as they say, live demos never work, let me challenge myself with a live demo of the simulation. So yes, it looked roughly like this. You trigger Node process and Python process. Yeah. Okay, so we had about 10 different modes that we coded separately, both visuals and music, that you can tweak here. Also, you can tweak a structure type. So, for example, you can go to like a test version. The top 3 are the real ones that we presented in different parts of London right now, in the world, actually, yeah. It does react to keys. Let me show this to you. Let me come back to nowhere. The visuals will come later. Let me maybe in the end do like a small demo of what I mean by how it did react to the tension. So this is kind of like a slow tension. This is kind of like a fast tension. Boom. Yeah, so all written in JavaScript. Okay. Now let me switch up the sound. Yeah. So why the simulation was crucial? Like everyone in my team tell me like, Katya, okay, stop playing with your web browser. This is just like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Apparently it was really amazing because first to code 13 different modes with visuals and music without something like this is almost impossible because you can't be like physically next, well, first of all, you can't really build a structure properly. Then you can't be physically next to the structure all the time. And like this, you can do this on the go, you can fix it. Like for example, I fixed a lot of visuals and modes change things on the plane to Barcelona, let's be honest. Second, it's much easier to tune debug the installation. So the way it works right now is because Raspberry Pi is being connected to Wi-Fi. So it means that with your mobile phone, you can connect to the installation, check that everything is working, play, change the mode is also quite handy. So why 13 different modes and not 10, the one that you've just seen? We had 3 special ones. One was on change. So this is, this actually gives, yeah. So this is what happens in between of 2 modes. So just like every column will lit one after another, and it's like the whole structure lit up. It was actually very beautiful. Second one was sleep mode and Easter egg. I will tell you a little bit more about them later. The other thing that we thought about as possible application of this web simulation is that at some point we can connect this to the outside world. So people from the outside influencing what's going on in the festival and people in seeing what's going on in the festival as well, kind of an internet connection. But we are working on this idea right now, so maybe it will be realized next time. Obviously, everything is open sourced. So if you want to contribute to the visuals, there is a lot of information in the README, a little bit outdated. I promise to update it very, very soon. The way I've done this is just like I think that almost no coding experience or JavaScript experience is needed for contribution. Also, if you want to contribute to anything else, please do. Please don't judge the code too much because we didn't have a lot of time and yeah, lots of pressure. And also I want to say that like because I was working with this visualization pretty much like 24, well, not 24 hours a day, but all my free time, I really was surprised that actually in the real life it looked a little bit better. Configuration. So in the end we had 3 sensors. I will explain why 3 sensors a little bit later. 3 sensors sending information to Arduino. Arduino through serial port, so 12 Arduinos through their own serial ports through USB hub, were pushing information to a Node.js process running on Raspberry Pi. In the same time, the browser was sending fake sensors data to the same Node.js process through sockets. Node.js had a kind of a matrix of RGB values for every LED that it calculated based on the all input all the time and then sent it back to live LEDs and back to the browser. So the browser had the real-life visualization of what is happening with the installation. And then Node.js process was talking to Python, and Python was creating all the beautiful music. So if you don't know what Raspberry Pi is just a small single-board computer. It's actually quite powerful, as you can see from the slide, comparing to what you're using on a day-to-day basis. We use this particular model. I think that most of the Raspberry Pis are pretty much the same, just this model has a lot of USB outputs that we needed and stereo output as well. Also, it can be connected to Wi-Fi and it uses SD card as memory, pretty much it. So Arduinos are, I think, a little bit more challenging to work with because I will tell you something that I think we're struggling still and up to this particular point. By some reason, Arduinos are much less reliable. So first of all, their USB port keeps disconnecting if you just touch it a little bit. So I think that maybe we use very cheap versions of Arduinos. I don't know, it might be the case as well. But we found like a lot of technical difficulties with them. So you talk to Arduino, so Arduino like talks to everything else through a serial port. There are libraries for the serial port for pretty much any language. What it does is just like through a serial port with a baud rate. Baud rate is just like symbols per second, so the speed, how it writes to the buffer. It writes something to the buffer. So you would think that you just like create a serial port, pipe on it, get the data from the Arduino, process it, and write it back. Actually, it's not that straightforward because in this case, the data just gets corrupted. It might be obvious for some people who have more experience with things like this. We were puzzled actually for quite some time, like what is going on, why? Well, it's just like you need to let Arduino know when it has received the full message because otherwise it doesn't block read or write to the same buffer. So it writes on top of the data that already is in the buffer and then like reads it all together. So you need to write something like this on Node side and on Arduino side. I don't know, so you just like don't write before you read and nothing too complicated, just like it was really difficult to understand why. USB hub. So I think it's quite a story because this USB hub I bought in a high street electronic shop. For the ones who are not familiar with London slang, this is a shop that usually resells stolen iPhones, like really, really dodgy electronic shop. But apparently this was the only USB hub that worked because we tried more fancy versions and by some reason they don't want to transfer all the data through them in the same manner. If anyone from the audience knows why, please let me know after the talk because I'm still puzzled with this. A bit about the sound. So originally, when I just thought it was like we will have some sound, and I just like, okay, you pull the sensor, you calculate some information, and just like create some sounds. But our composer was much more ambitious about this idea. And so like one mode lasted for roughly 15 minutes. And for the whole 15 minutes, for every mode, he composed a bass melody, bass ambient melody that was playing throughout the whole thing. And on top of that, he composed a melody for every column. So when you pull the sensor, this melody was just becoming louder, and then when you stop pulling the sensor, just slowly becoming quieter into the nothing. Yeah. So the sound part of the program was written in Python. I think first of all because Andrei is a Python coder, and there are libraries that are really good libraries available for. But to be honest, I think that the language doesn't really matter in many ways. Another thing that I want to mention about the sound is that originally the initial idea was to make it only running by solar power, you know, like eco-friendly, blah blah blah, not using the grid. And apparently, it's literally impossible to play sound in a decent volume without the grid. Because we've done lots of calculations and the ecological damage that you will create from the batteries that you are reusing is actually larger than using the generator. LEDs. So LEDs are just strips with light-emitting diodes, so just like a small lamps. I think there are two types of LEDs. Some of them you can only change like the color of the whole strip. For some of them you can code every LED separately. We had 2.5 meter strips with 120 LEDs each. We decided to group them by 3 and then put them kind of in a buffer with 3 colors for each and a couple of controlling bytes on every side. LEDs need to be powered separately because they have different voltage than Arduino, so it means that our installation was looking a little bit more like a bomb during the daytime. And so if you just use LEDs, they look a little bit like this, like, you know, with these dots. I think, well, not as pretty. So you need to put LED in a kind of a diffuser, semi-transparent thing that diffuses the light. In this case, it really looks very beautiful, at least in my opinion. Stretch sensors, yeah, so stretch sensor is just a conductive rubber core stretch sensor. So this is like this rubber thing that you can see in between of copper wires. When you stretch it, it changes the resistance. It's as simple as that. The copper wire solution is something that I think my team still hates me for, because I thought it's brilliant, you know, it's like so easy to tangle them, and they are conductive, such a great idea to tangle, and yet they can be like attached to the ropes easily, right? So why wouldn't you do this? Well, apparently it's quite painful to like tangle 36 sensors like this. Also, sensors were the most fragile part of the installation on purpose, because people sometimes pull the ropes in a quite aggressive way, or they were jumping just on the ropes. I don't know, they didn't understand how to do this. So sensors were breaking all the time. I think out of 36 sensors, that's why we have 3 per Arduinos, because if 2 breaks, still 1 is still there. So out of 36, I think about 10 were broken every day. But yeah, because of this like amazing design, it was really easy to put them back together. And sensors' behavior on the real structure was really impossible to test in advance. That's why a couple of things didn't work. For example, sleep mode. Because for sleep mode, we assume that the installation stays completely stale for, like, let's say, 10 minutes. And some sensors were just continuously firing some kind of output, I think because they were half broken or something like this. So that's why sleep mode was almost never triggered. So what I can say that, like, if you're working on something like this, test, and I'm not talking about TDD here, just do as many physical test runs as you can, because these tangible things, they never work as expected. This is how my living room looked for about a month before the installation. Yes, also I think another mistake that you can see from this amazing slide is that if you're doing documentation about what you do, never do this in portrait, do this in landscape, because otherwise it looks really ugly on the slides. Testing on 2 is nothing like testing on 12, because just a couple of weeks before the going to the desert, we decided to test run at our friend's party, and it almost didn't work at all. First of all, because we didn't realize that second USB hub that we bought is not working the same way as the first USB hub. And second, there was like really a stupid thing that we've done by including Bluetooth port into the list of USB ports we were reading from, and that's why it created memory leak. But it taught me that it's really important to see the production issues in advance rather than facing them in the middle of the desert. Because we had 2 weeks to fix everything, and then when we put it together in the desert, it worked all the way through and almost didn't break, surprisingly. Yeah, don't forget where you built it. Yeah, living in this kind of desert is quite challenging. Building something like this in the desert is almost impossible. Also extremely lucky to do this in the middle of the heat wave in the part that's like literally the hottest part of Europe. So you can see these clouds in the picture. Well, it's hotter when there are clouds in the sky, apparently. And also we had a couple of storms. But I'm extremely grateful to the community. Community and these festivals is extremely supportive. We received so much support from, like, starting from our friends up to like completely random people just stopping by and helping us to put this like 5 meters long wooden structures on 4 meters high. We found people who were driving from London, who agreed with the van, who agreed to pick up two spacious items with them. And how do you source wood in Spain if you don't live in Spain, don't speak Spanish? Right, we just found in a Facebook group people who were sourcing wood for their camp and shipped in. Yeah, another thing I want to say, that's like lunchboxes are completely awesome because they are almost hermetic. They protect it from water, from wind. They come almost in any size. They are really easy to drill holes in, and they're extremely cheap. They only look a little bit ugly, so you need to hide them. And we thought that nothing is going to work, at least I thought nothing is going to work, everything is going to break, so we had spare parts for everything. 2 Raspberry Pis, 4 SD cards, because somewhere on forums we read that Raspberry Pis, they break SD cards inside them. Spare Arduinos, power block, wire sensors, actually sensors in the very end, I think we used most of them. And constantly we had this fear, like, did we forget anything? Is there anything that we missed? So no, we didn't miss anything, and it worked almost without any fault for 4 nights in a row. So yeah, it was amazing. Let's see some video about how it looked. Oops, sound is important. So thank you. What's next? We are currently presenting it at some small and big parties in London. This is the version that we've done for an event called London Decompression. So this is a big London-based event for like Burning Man kind of community. Also, just before this event, I just to do a test drive, I built this in my bedroom. So that I think that like every bedroom should have something like this. I don't know, I think it's like, yes, this is Andrei pulling the sensors underneath the table. So yeah, and because I finally managed to film it in my bedroom, I want to show you what I meant by Easter egg. So Easter egg supposed to happen when like everyone like really pulls all the ropes very, very strong way. So something like this. So it was never triggered because it's very difficult to find the spot where like everyone is pulling the ropes strongly enough. Still, it's like possible, but it doesn't happen like say every 5 minutes because otherwise there won't be Easter egg in it. So other than that, we're working. So we're applying to other similar festivals. We are working on ideas what we can do better, where can we bring it next. So some of them are connected with putting some more meaning in visuals, connect them with some wildlife events or other events. Another one that I'm really passionate about right now is like instead of attaching diffusers to the structure, create a semi-transparent structure that will be diffuser on its own. But I guess we will need more funding for this. And yeah, now I'm speaking about it at some conferences. So what can I say in the end is that you decide what you do with your free time. And if you want to do something, there are almost infinite possibilities. So do what you like yourself. and create toys that you would enjoy yourself, and there will be other people who love it. Thank you.